Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another day of school. Good morning, English classes. Hope you all are doing well today, and just hope that things are going well for you so far, and that in general you're just doing well. So, today I am trying to keep things pretty to the point instead of just um, going over things over and over again. But I do want to give you all some quick reminders before we get into what we're doing today. So, first of all, I did mention this last week, but I'm giving you all the rest of today for the email etiquette assignment. And after today, the assignment will have points off. Um, so if you turn it in later than today, like tomorrow, then I'm going to have to take points off. And most of you have turned in this assignment already, so most of you are good to go, but there's some of you who still have not, so please try to turn that in so that I can give you that credit. Also, class procedures, that was due yesterday. I will be having to count it late if you turned it in late, because with that one, there's really no reason to give an extension, because that was a pretty easy checklist. But if you haven't turned it in, please still do so that I can get a general idea of work days. Um, Also, lesson one is due this Friday. I'm getting the feeling that maybe some of you will need more time for that, so I might change the due date, and I will notify you all if I do that, because it is a pretty long short story, to be fair. But lesson one is due this Friday, and then I'll be talking about this other interlopers annotated assignment too, because I think there may have been some confusion on that from some of you. But before I do that, I wanted to announce something to you all. First of all, there's been an update by Bitmoji Classroom. So I think instead, let me go to the Bitmoji Classroom real quick to show you what I changed. Oops. Hold on one second, guys. Okay, so with the Bitmoji Classroom, as some of you who have looked at my Bitmoji Classroom might be able to tell, there has been a change. And originally in the middle here, let me get this pointer. Originally in the middle here, I had a calendar which showed our agenda. And I really didn't use that calendar. I think it was just a little too complicated, and I think it would have been confusing for you all. So instead, I've done something else, and this is something I'm going to be using for the rest of the year. So keep this in mind. Not for the rest of the year for sure, but I will be using this while we're online. So I'm getting the impression that probably a lot of you all would want to have a weekly update on your assignments, like an overview of what each week will look like. So you all have that option to look at assignments on a weekly basis in this Google site. And I'll put a direct link into Google Classroom as well if you don't want to access it from the Bitmoji Classroom. But here's my Google site. So you can click whichever class is most relevant for you, so either English 3 or English 2, depending on which one you are. I'm just going to click on English 3 for now, just to give you, show you all. Okay, computer slowed down for a second. Sorry, guys. So English 3 and English 2 look very similar, except Unit 2 is obviously different because Unit 2 for English 3 is Into the Wild, and Unit 2 for English 2 is To Kill a Mockingbird. But everything else is very similar here. You'll have these three tabs, one for syllabus, one for Unit 1, and one for Unit 2. So under the syllabus, if you click this, and I'm trying to go over this as quick as possible, guys, so that we can get into what we're doing today. So if you want to, you can read the syllabus here. Again, you can always click this link here, this pop-out link up here to make the syllabus look bigger. Let me go back. I accidentally went to English 2. I'll just continue to use English 3. Of course, we're on short stories, Unit 1 short stories right now. And as you'll see, I have the weeks mapped out into each individual week. So I already have the intro week here if you ever want to go back and look at the stuff we did for August 31st through September 4th. But I do have everything for September 8th through 11th. Now, I don't have all the videos posted yet, but let me just show you. And this is what it's generally going to look like from week to week for you all. And I should have next week posted pretty soon. I'm trying to have that posted by Sunday of this coming week. But so as you can see, you can go back to previous lessons, like you can look at yesterday's lesson, and I have direct links to our assignments. So I have a direct link to the interloper story that you all started yesterday, as well as the annotating text assignment that is due this Friday. Oh, sorry, due Sunday. I actually did change the due date on that already. My bad, guys. It's due Sunday, September 11th, not this Friday anymore. I think that's a more fair due date, and that's generally going to be when I start making my due dates, is the Sunday of the coming week will be my due dates for every assignment that I assign for that week. And like I said, I'm generally trying to keep it to 2 assignments at a week at the most, and 1 slightly smaller assignment that will be due that week. I will probably do 2 assignments or 1 bigger assignment. I'm just going to have to gauge and see how you all do, and of course, if I'm being too overloaded with assignments, then I'm sure I'll figure that out by how many of you turn in assignments and how many of you don't, as to whether I need to reduce the assignment load or keep it about the same. But here's today. I'm going to be posting this video on the Google site today, and I'll explain that assignment in just a second because it is different than this annotating text assignment. Tomorrow you all have a work day, so you all know that. And then Friday, there will be no video, but I will be posting a weekly checklist here where I'm going to ask you all to check off what assignments you've done and what assignments you need to do. And this checklist will be posted every week. This will be the only assignment you have on Friday. So I think that's fair. I need that sort of review. Sometimes it won't be a checklist, but it'll be some sort of review thing, whether it's you all answering questions about what we learned for the week, or giving me a checklist of things you've done for the week, or things like that. It'll just depend, but Friday will always be like an overall look at the week. So, like I said, this week is not entirely up to date yet, but it will be. And in the coming weeks, I am going to try to keep it completely updated, all the videos posted in advance, so that you all can go to this Google site and use it to your advantage. And I'd advise that for you, those of you who are really wanting to pace yourself for the whole week. For those of you who are wanting to just pace yourself daily, I'll still be sending out daily emails and whatnot with assignments for the day. But for those of you who are wanting to look at the overall week, this Google site is most certainly available to you all. And you all can go back and look at other assignments as well. So I just wanted to bring that to your all's attention, that that Google site is there for you all to use, and that you all can take advantage of that. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and go into what we're doing today. Actually, before I do that, because this video, the rest of this video after this talk, I'll go into when the video is optional. This part of the video is required right now, but after this, I'll notify you all when you all can pause the video if you want to and work on your assignment independently. But so, as you all know, on this Sunday is due the interlopers annotating text assignment. Now, some of you all who have turned this in, I just want to bring it to your attention. I'm not going to make you all do this now since you've turned it in. It's not a huge deal, but some of you all did not give me a definition of one of the terms that you bolded, one of the terms that you didn't understand, and I want to be sure you do that in the future. But yeah, keep that in mind, that I want you to do that in the future. Now, your assignment for your bigger assignment, this interlopers annotated, this is the bigger assignment for the week, is where I'm wanting you all to read the interloper short story in its entirety and then submit your assignment here. Just the short story itself, completely annotated by you. And you can use the same, all I'm wanting you to do is to use the same types of annotations we used for this assignment. So it's basically like you're using this assignment, but you're doing it on a bigger scale now. So now you're highlighting every word you see that you don't understand. Let me see what I had for, you're bolding the words that you don't understand. You're underlining important events, every important event and plot point that happens, or you're highlighting a character when they are mentioned for the first time in the text. Of course, this highlighting will probably become smaller and less frequent as you go into the text because there aren't like a whole lot of characters. But this is something that you all need to do as well. So when you have your text entirely annotated using those types of annotations that I want you to, then you need to turn in your work here. And all you need to do is when you turn in your work, you will need to add your Google Doc as an attachment. And if anybody needs a tutorial on that, then I can give you all a tutorial on that. So please shoot me an email or anything if you need a tutorial on how to attach an assignment when you're turning in something individually, and I don't have like a document attached. Because all you're turning in is this document from lesson 1. You can continue using this interlopers document here because I gave each of you an individual copy, and you can use that for this assignment here. All right, so that ends the part of this video that is required. Now, I'm going to be, like I said yesterday, I am going to be reading most of this short story with you all right now. I'm going to be reading it out loud in the video, and I'm also going to be doing some of my own annotations to the text while I'm reading it. Now, if you do not want to hear me reading it, you want to read it yourself independently, then you can stop the video right now if you want to and continue to read it on your own. I still expect you to do the annotations, but if you're wanting some help with annotations, you can use some of my own that I'm doing here while I'm reading the story, while also using some of your own. So those of you who do not want to go ahead and pause now. All right, so those of you who are still here, I'm going to go ahead and read the interlopers with you all and make some of my own annotations every once in a while. I'm not sure if I'm going to read the whole story. I might stop around page 6 and let you all finish it off. But I'm going to start here, and I'll explain a couple things plot-wise because I know the story is a bit of a tougher read, but I'll stop every once in a while and explain what's going on. All right. So, in a forest of mixed growth, somewhere on the eastern spurs of the Carpathians, a man stood one winter night, watching and listening, as though he waited for some beast of the woods to come within the range of his vision, and later of his rifle. But the game for whose presence he kept so keen an outlook was none that figured in the sportsman's calendar as lawful and proper for the chase. Ulrich von Gradwitz patrolled the dark forest in quest of a human enemy. So there's the main idea right there. This character Ulrich is going around in the dark forest trying to find an enemy of some sort. The forest lands of Gradwitz were of wide extent and well stocked with game. The narrow strip of precipitous, now some of you all may not know that word, so I'll bold that, precipitous woodland that lay on its outskirt was not remarkable for the game it harbored or the shooting it afforded, but it was the most jealously guarded of all its owner's territorial possessions. So, essentially, the forest, I'm going to underline the forest lands, as well as, where was it? Most guarded of all its owner's territorial possessions. And I'm underlining this because this is an important plot point here. We need to remember that the forest itself is something that is very important to the owner, and anybody who would dare to come invade on his forest, anyone who would dare and come and try to trespass on his territory would be facing severe consequences. So that's something very important to keep in mind. A famous lawsuit in the days of his grandfather had wrested, that might be something you all don't know, so I'll bold that, had wrested it from the illegal possession of a neighboring family of petty landowners. The dispossessed party had never acquiesced in the judgment of the courts. Once again, another word you all might not know, and a long series of poaching affrays and similar scandals had embittered the relationships between the families for 3 generations. The neighbor feud had grown into a personal one since Ulrich had come to the head of his family, If there was a man in the world whom he detested and wished ill will to, it was George Nahum. Zanahum? I'm not sure how you say that, to be honest. But that's a word that you would highlight because that is a new character. The inheritor of the quarrel and the tireless game snatcher and the raider of the disputed border force. Alright, so this is important. There was a man in the world who he detested. It was George. This is important because we're introduced to the main character's enemy, who owns like a sort of border force to him, and it's a disputed territory. So there's a feud between them, obviously. The feud might perhaps have died down or been compromised if the personal ill will of the two men had not stood in the way. As boys, they had first thirsted for one another's blood. As men, each prayed that misfortune might fall on the other. And this wind-scourged winter night, Ulrich had banded together his foresters to watch the dark forest, not in quest of four-footed quarry, which, by the way, I'll bold that.
Mr. Gagne to the front office, please.
I'll bold that, but quarry means like prey or game, like hunting game. But to keep a lookout for the prowling thieves whom he suspected of being afoot from across the land boundary. The roebuck, which usually kept in the sheltered hollows during a storm wind, were running like driven things tonight, and there was a movement and unrest among the creatures that were wont to sleep through the dark hours. Assuredly there was a disturbing element in the forest, and Ulrich could guess the quarter from which it came. So another important plot point. Something disturbing is happening in the forest. He strayed away by himself from the watchers whom he had placed in ambush on the crest of the hill, and wandered far down the steep slopes amid the wild tangle of undergrowth, peering through the tree trunks and listening through the whistling and skirling of the wind and the restless beating of the branches for sight and sound of the marauders. If only on this wild night, in this dark lone spot, he might come across George, man to man, with none to witness. That was a wish that was the uppermost in his thoughts, and as he stepped round the trunk of a huge beech, he came face to face with the man he sought. So, another important plot point. He finally comes face to face with George, his main enemy. The two enemies stood glaring at one another for a long silent moment. Each had a rifle in his hand. Each had hate in his heart and murder uppermost in his mind. The chance had come to give full play to the passions of a lifetime. But a man who has been brought up under the code of restrained civilization cannot easily nerve himself to shoot down his neighbor in cold blood, and without word spoken, except for an offense against his hearth and honor. That might be a word you all don't know what that means in context of the story. Sorry, guys. So I'm going to bold that. Alright, going on. And before the moment of hesitation had given way to action, a deed of nature's own violence overwhelmed them both. A fierce shriek of the storm had been answered by a splitting crash over their heads, and ere they could leap aside, a mass of falling beech tree had thundered down on them. Another important plot point here, a tree falls down, something very dangerous, because this is a pretty big tree, not just any type of normal tree. Ulrich found himself stretched on the ground, one arm numb beneath him, and the other held at almost as helplessly in a tight tangle of forked branches, while both legs were pinned beneath the fallen mass. His heavy shooting boots had saved his feet from being crushed to pieces, but if his fractures were not as serious as they might have been, at least it was evident that he could not move from his present position until someone came to release him. The descending twig had slashed the skin of his face, and he had to wink away some drops of blood from his eyelashes before he could take in a general view of the disaster. At his side, so near that under ordinary circumstances he almost could have touched him, lay George, alive and struggling, but obviously as helplessly pinioned down as himself. Now, you all may not know what that means, but in context of the text we can sort of tell. Maybe pinned down, like he's held down by the tree. All around them lay a thick strewn wreckage of splintered branches and broken twigs. So there's something you all could underline here. I'm not going to tell you all what that is because I don't want to give you all everything, but there is an important plot point here that you all might want to underline. Relief at being alive and exasperation at his captive plight brought a strange medley of pious thank offerings and sharp curses to Ulrich's lips. Pious, another word that you all may not know. George, who was early blinded with the blood which trickled across his eyes, stopped his struggling for a moment to listen, then gave a short, snarling laugh. So you're not to be killed as you ought to be, but you're caught anyway, he cried. Caught fast. What a jest, Ulrich, snared in a stolen forest. There's real justice for you. And jest means joke, I'll just tell you all that. So he's like saying it's sort of ironic that there is justice for Ulrich, but not in the way that George was expecting. And he laughed again, mockingly and savagely. I'm caught in my own forest land, retorted Ulrich. When my men come to release us, you will wish, perhaps, that you were in a better place than caught poaching on a neighbor's land. Shame on you. George was silent for a moment, then he answered quietly, Are you sure that your men will find much to release? I have men too in the forest tonight, close behind me, and they will be here first and do the releasing. When they drag me out from under these damned branches, it won't need much clumsiness on their part to roll this massive trunk right over on top of you. Your men will find you dead under a fallen beech tree. For form's sake, I shall send my condolences to your family. So as you can tell, these two really can't stand each other. And there's something important here. I have men, and they will be the first. So not only does Ulrich supposedly have men coming to release him, but George also has men coming to release him, and they're both thinking that their men will come and basically kill the other for them. It's a useful hint, said Ulrich fiercely. My men had orders to follow in 10 minutes' time, 7 of which must have gone by already, and when they get me out, I will remember the hint. Only as you will have met your death poaching on my lands, I don't think I can decently send any message of condolence to your family. Good, snarled George. Good. We fight this quarrel out to the death, you and I, our foresters, with no cursed interlopers to come between us. Death and damnation to you, Ulrich. Now, interlopers. That's the first mention of that important word here. And some of you all may not know what that means, and of course that'll be important to understanding the story. So look up what interlopers means. The same to you, George, forest thief, game snatcher. Both men spoke with the bitterness of possible defeat before them, for each knew that it might be long before his men would seek him out or find him. It was a bare matter of chance which party would arrive first on the scene. Both had now given up the useless struggle to free themselves from the mass of wood that held them down. Ulrich limited his endeavors to an effort to bring his partially free arm near enough to his outer coat pocket to draw out his wine flask. Even when he had accomplished that operation, it was long before he could manage this unscrewing of the stopper or get any of the liquid down his throat. But what a heaven-sent drought it seemed! It was an open winter, and little snow had fallen yet. Hence the captive suffered less from the cold than might have been the case at that season of the year. Nevertheless, the wine was warming and reviving to the wounded man, and he lay across with something like a throb of pity to where his enemy lay, just keeping the groans of pain and weariness from crossing his lips. Could you reach this flask if I threw it over to you? Asked Ulrich suddenly. There's good wine in it, and one may as well be as comfortable as one can. Let us drink, even if tonight one of us dies. Sort of a key plot point. This is the first time one of the men is showing any kind of kindness to the other man. They have been insulting each other and wishing death on one another so far, but Ulrich is actually offering George some wine to drink, offering him something before he dies, which is actually a nice gesture in a way. Probably the only nice gesture so far from either of these men. In fact, it definitely is the only nice gesture. No, I can scarcely see anything. There is so much blood caked around my eyes, said George. And in any case, I don't drink wine with an enemy. Ulrich was silent for a few minutes, and lay listening to the weary screeching of the wind. An idea was slowly forming and growing in his brain, an idea that gained strength every time he looked across at the man who was fighting so grimly against pain and exhaustion. And the pain and languor, that might be something you all don't know, but maybe in context of the text you can see what he's saying. And the pain and languor that Ulrich himself was feeling, the old fierce hatred, seemed to be dying down. Obviously, another very key plot point. The hatred is going away. Neighbor, he said presently, do as you please if your men come first. It was a fair compact, but as for me, I've changed my mind. If my men are the first to come, you shall be the first to be helped, as though you were my guest. We have quarreled like devils all our lives over this stupid strip of forest where the trees can't even stand upright in the breath of wind. Lying here tonight, I've come to think we've been rather fools. There are better things in life than getting the better of a boundary dispute. Neighbor, if you help me to bury the old quarrel, I will ask you to be my friend. George was silent for so long that Ulrich thought perhaps he had fainted from the pain of his injuries. Then he spoke slowly and in jerks. How the whole region would stare and gabble if we rode into a market square together. No one living can remember seeing Nahum and von Gradwitz talking to one another in friendship. And what peace there would be among the Forster folk if we ended our feud tonight. And if we chose to make our peace among our people, there is none other to interfere, no interlopers from outside. You would come and keep the Sylvester night beneath my roof, and I would come and feast on some high day at your castle. I would never fire a shot on your land, save when you invited me as a guest, and you should come and shoot me down in the marshes where the wildfowl are. In all the countryside there are none that could hinder if we were willed to make peace. I never thought to have wanted to do other than hate you all my life, but I think I have changed my mind about things too this last half hour, and you offered me your wine flask. Ulrich von Gradwitz, I will be your friend. For a space both men were silent, turning over in their minds the wonderful changes that this dramatic reconciliation would bring about. In the cold, gloomy forest, with the wind tearing in fitful gusts through the naked branches and whistling around tree trunks, they lay and waited for the help that would now bring the release and succor to both parties. This might also be a word you all do not know, and personally, I'm not sure exactly what they're saying here with this word in context of the text, so I might have to look this one up myself. And each prayed a private prayer that his men might be the first to arrive, so that he might be the first to show honorable attention to the enemy that had become a friend. Presently, as the wind dropped for a moment, Ulrich broke silence. Let's shout for help, he said. In this lull our voices may carry a little way. They won't carry far through the trees and undergrowth, said George, but we can try. Together, then. The two raised their voices in a prolonged hunting call. Together again, said Ulrich, a few minutes later, after listening in vain for an answering halloo. I heard nothing but the pestilential wind, said George hoarsely. There was a silence for some minutes, and then Ulrich gave a joyful cry. I see figures coming through the wood. They were following in their way I came down from the hillside. Both men raised their voices in as loud a shout as they could muster. They hear us, they've stopped. Now they see us, they're running down the hill towards us, cried Ulrich. How many of them are there? Asked George. I can't see distinctly, said Ulrich. 9 or 10. Then they are yours. I only had 7 out with me, said George. They're making all the speed they can, brave lads, said Ulrich gladly. Are they your men? Asked George. Are they your men? He repeated impatiently as Ulrich did not answer. No, said Ulrich with a laugh, the idiotic chattering of a laugh with a man unstrung with hideous fear. Who are they? Asked George quickly, straining his eyes to see what the other gladly would not have seen. Ooh, a dark ending, right, guys? So they both thought it was their men, but it looks like it was the interlopers who this story very briefly alluded to earlier in the story. It was the interlopers who were coming. And who knows what the interlopers are going to do to them, but you can get the general idea that it's not going to be a good thing. These characters that are trespassing on their land, on both of their lands at this point. And that's an example of a certain type of irony called situational irony. But we aren't talking about irony right now, but that's something we can think about maybe later with this story when we talk about irony in the future. But yeah, I did some of my own annotations, so you can use those to your abilities. You can use some of them, you can use all of them. But for these last couple pages, I purposefully didn't make any annotations because I want you all to do those annotations on your own. All right, so that ends our lesson for today. And if you all have any questions, please let me know. Once again, a reminder, your lesson 1 with just annotating pages 3 through 5 or 2 through 4 of the interlopers is due Sunday, and also due on Sunday is your entirely annotated interlopers text, where you're doing all sorts of different annotations. So both of those are due Sunday, and keep that in mind. All right, have a good day, everyone. Remember, tomorrow is a work day, so take that day to your advantage and get these assignments done. Thank you all so much.